Hi, everyone. This is my part two of my NDE story and also describing the after effects of the NDE. So, where I left off was, um, I think I'm still standing in the river, and all of this knowledge and information had become available to me. I had seen my innocence. I had seen that all people were incomparably beautiful. All things, in fact, beauty is in literally everything, every situation, every possible situation that you have ever encountered and will ever encounter contains magnificent beauty, a one of a kind beauty. So it's not just all people, it's every moment of your life contains beauty. So I this and so much more was available to me, and it was these profound rolling realizations and rolling remembrances of my truest home and my truest mission on earth and what the purpose of life was. It was all laid out, or it was even Alexander describes the sensation of this. Some people call it a download of information, which is close. I often call it a savant like state. Um, there are certain people who are born with savant capabilities, and they used to be called idiot savants because while they couldn't function normally socially in any normal way, they were, on the other hand, extremely tuned into, for example, a mathematical equation. You could take huge numbers and divide them and ask them what the answer was, and they would immediately have the answer. Or and these people exist today. Well, it's like that. It's a savant-like state, and it's natural to us, actually. That's at least what I felt and saw in my NDE. This instant grasping of whole concepts instantly. Is felt more natural than my normal way of thinking on earth. Really, way far more natural. So, even Alexander has explained it in a really perfect way too. And I remember from when I read his book years ago, he says that I would think of a question, and before I could even finish the thought of the question, the answer would bloom up like a flower. And that's exactly what it felt like. It's a combination of being given answers and remembering them. And also throughout all of this, the thing that's very common, but certainly in my NDE, was a shocking revelation about how simple it all is. And I believe that to be true. Even it was simple in that state, but I believe it's still simple even in this state. In fact, I think that it's so simple that we miss it because on earth, our minds are filled with limitation and fear and belief systems that come not from, they come from, passed down stories that have been passed down, and warnings and how we should live and all of these ideas. And um and and fear, they really come from fear. So that's so let's just go back to that. So this, to my NDE as a whole. So uh, it was incredible. It was an incredible. There is no way to describe it that feels like I've done it justice. I could tell. I write about it so often, daily, and I have for years now. And the reason I do that is because I will forever be trying to unravel the mystery of it, and to touch that simplicity again, and to put my finger on it again and say, ah, and I do regularly. I mean, going back to my NDE and feeling what it felt like to be there, or discussing with other NDEs certain things that we experienced will often give me a wonderful huge inspiration blooming in me, like, like, oh, that feels so good to hear that, because it's right. um it's exactly what I felt, and it's exciting when you hear it again in someone else's words. All right, so I'm standing in the brook or the river or the stream, whatever it was, and I feel that I've been filled. I There comes a moment in my NDE where I was in this absorbing awe and love and comfort and relief. And then that sort of wrapped up, and curiosity, this interesting electric curiosity came over me, and I started to walk myself out of the river. And my sights were on the forest, and I was headed to the riverbank. And I got to the riverbank, and took one foot out of the water to place it on the riverbank, and and I bel I believe that I heard a voice say no. And but I'm not sure. I'll never be completely sure if I heard that or not. But what I do know is that before my foot could touch the riverbank, I was sort of like sucked backwards through the tunnel. And and I the next thing I know is that I come up awake on my bed. And oh, uh, so well, number one, as I came to on my bed, hours had passed. I had been out for easily 8 hours, because when I had first lay down on my bed, it was probably 11:30, or maybe even earlier. I'm not sure, but it was before noon. And when I came awake, it was dark outside, and I believe it was 7 or 8 p.m. I'm not sure. So the first thing that happened when I came to was a slight bit of confusion, and then, whoa, what just happened to me? What, what, what were, I had no words. And I reached out for my journal, which was on my bedside, and I got my pen and started trying to, I'm barely awake, and I'm trying to, this is very hard to describe. I was trying to write it all down, what I had just experienced. I knew it was utterly profound. It was like nothing I had ever felt or experienced before. But I was having a sensation, and this is the only way to describe it. And I've been describing it this way, exactly this way, for years, probably since that time. There was a sensation that my memory was being erased right before my eyes. My memory of the experience was being just aggressively taken out of my head before I could hold on to it. And I've never experienced, it's not the same as when you're trying to remember a dream. It was far more dramatic than that. And I remember being extremely frustrated. It was maddening because if you can imagine, you have a memory, you have this profound experience, and it keeps disappearing the minute you you try to write it down. But somehow, and I don't know how, but somehow I got out the story that I've just told you all. And somehow I did it. I don't really know how. But I believe that there was probably a lot more that may have happened in my NDE, but I don't remember it. Um, discussing with other NDEs these experiences, other people who have had NDEs, discussing with them, or reading other NDEs, which I do frequently. I check the NDERF website for new NDEs on a regular basis because reading new NDEs sparks off that those it sparks off memory. When I read one, that has the same qualities that mine does, I will it will something they say that I've never quite touched on before in my own descriptions will open up this entire sense memory of what happened to me. So it's very wild. So immediately following my writing down what I could of my NDE, I got up out of bed and I had no fever anymore. I was completely well. Whatever had happened to me, whatever sickness I had had earlier in that day that came on so suddenly, was gone. There wasn't a trace of it. So I got up feeling great. I was surprised about how dark it was outside, how much time had passed. And I was just in a kind of place of stunned wonder, even after the NDA. I just was, whoa, everything felt really, I was seeing everything right away through new eyes. It was like a rebirth. It's hard to explain because it wasn't this, what was dramatic was the NDE, but immediately following it, I really felt this incredible refresh of my perspective on everything. And I was like a newborn child. I was very innocent in this wobbly, like, wow, what a life. Wow. So I walked out of my bedroom and I saw my father sitting in the living room, which is where he was every evening watching the evening news. I said, "Dad." And he said, "Oh, are you feeling better, honey?" And something. And I said, "I just had the most incredible experience and I don't even know." I mean, I could barely speak about it. I was just in awe still. And I told him, I got out whatever. I don't remember exactly what I told him, but I told him. And his reaction didn't hurt my feelings, really. And my father is also a wonderful man, and he's very spiritual and very gentle, an artist type. And so I think I thought that he was the perfect person to be there and to tell because my father had such a strong faith in God. But his reaction kind of surprised me and was a bit of a letdown. And no offense, Dad, if you ever watch this, I don't blame you. Um, he just didn't know how to take what I was saying. I don't know if he didn't believe me, and I doubt that it was that he didn't believe me. But in fact, I'll never know what he really thought of that because his reaction was not what I expected was wow, and then us having a conversation about it, But I don't know what happened. I'm not sure why he couldn't hear it or receive it in a way that I meant it. I'll never know exactly why he had that reaction, but I found out later that most people close to me do have that reaction even now. They I don't know why that is, but I think that it's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I think that's as it should be for some reason that I, you know, don't need to quite understand, because I think that happens to most NDEs. I think that the people closest to them just sort of don't know what to do with the information, and there probably is a lot of doubt of whether that was a dream or it was real, or in the person's mind. And that's, like I said, that's okay. It's really okay. All right, so in the months after the NDE, I would say maybe 2 months, 3 months, I lived in a state of absolute presence and wonder. I saw everything from it's very simple. This stuff is so simple. I accepted all that I encountered in my sight, in my experiences in life. I had no judgment of it. No dread, no fear. Fear was gone. I couldn't be afraid anymore at the time, because I just seen that everything was perfectly fine all the time, and that I was totally loved, dearly, dearly loved, and cherished, and amazing. And so was everything else. And that life was absolutely astonishingly magnificent and beautiful and meaningful. And that I didn't even have to worry about anything, because everything would just come to me. I don't have to control anything. It's just be in it. um and that was enough. In fact, more than enough. That's best, is to just relax in and just allow what's happening around you. And when you're in that place of total presence and total safety and kind of childlike wonder, you you behave appropriately. That's a natural consequence, because people often say, well, if you don't have to, try or control things, then the world would fall apart. Or, what if someone's being hurt in front of you? Don't you intervene? And they have all of these questions. And it's really hard for me to answer that, because it's more of an orientation of when you're in that zone within yourself, you behave the right way. You you trust, and then what's coming out of your mouth as a response, or what you're doing action wise as a response to what you're seeing, is perfectly in line with the dance of life. If you are in a position where somebody needs compassion, first, it also makes you incredibly intuitive. When you're in that presence, you're so in tune with people and with animals, with everything. You become telepathic. And and you don't even notice that you are. It's all seamless. Another thing that's very hard to describe, but I think that you probably get the picture. So I had many amazing experiences after that. In those next 2 months, many people that I would meet on the street or in a cafe, I ended up fountaining off something to them that they needed to hear at that moment. And very often people were pretty astonished with my presence and what was coming out of my mouth. Um, and it just was natural. It was a flow. Uh, So I'm trying to think of there's so much there it's 30 years between myself and between me now and me coming out of the NDE or having the NDE. It's been 30 years. So it's hard for me to there's so much that has occurred since then. I will say that something in my life happened that was quite traumatic a few months after the NDE, and it sort of shut down my entire experience in the NDE. It just shut down the NDE completely. All the feelings of wonder and stuff just went, and I closed down into fear again and some depression again and stuff. But it had a different quality than before. Uh, Before the NDE was worse. After the NDE, even though I had this trauma that happened, I secretly down deep inside of me had my NDE, and it kept whispering to me in a way that you're still worthy, you're still innocent, it's okay, you know. But after that, I definitely have gone through periods of, I developed panic attacks. I had all kinds of fear, kind of the monster of fear has been like a something I've had to work hard on, and that's probably why I focus on it so much in my writing. Not only because of the NDE, but because my experiences with fear later on were so debilitating that I wanted to solve it. I wanted to go back to my NDE and pull it out and apply it to now, to the fears, and how do I really work with this? How do I take that information that I learned, and how do I actually um, bring it into my life now, and to help me solve this? And I've learned a lot, and it's been quite a journey. So I just wanted to finish that. If you have questions, you can leave them under the video, and um, I will start addressing questions in my videos from here on out, because this certainly isn't the last video I'd like. I actually have a list of topics that I'm going to go through as time goes on. So thank you so much uh, for listening, and I do accept donations. So if you'd like to donate, I've put in the description where you can do that. I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and thank you.